Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Melanie Desmond Battles here for our episode 2 of Sundays with Soul, a time for instructional leaders to meet here and talk with me about things that matter to the soul of instructional leaders in school. Before we begin, I want to introduce myself for those who may be watching for the first time. Again, I am Dr. Melanie Desmond Battles. I am the lead consultant, more than 10-year educator, past instructional coach, past classroom teacher, and now consultant. And I am the lead consultant for Scholars for the Soul and Educational Solutions Firm. And we are a firm that is based here in Little Rock, Arkansas, where we help schools and organizations to develop their systems and practices around cultural responsiveness. Last week, we started out this Sunday with Soul series, and we are planning to do this, Lord willing, Lord say the same, every single Sunday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. So you can mark your calendar, set your time, and be sure to join me here every Sunday here on LinkedIn and also here on YouTube at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, we are starting this series and we are actually looking to grow our reach because our goal, our mission, is to normalize culturally responsive teaching and leadership in schools across the country and across the globe. But we need your help in doing that. So if you're watching this on LinkedIn, be sure as you are watching to give us a like, to drop some of your reflections, your thoughts in the comments below. We will chat back with you as the time period goes on. But also be sure if you are on YouTube, if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel, share the YouTube live with anybody that you think will resonate with this content and value that we are bringing to the space on today, in the past, and in future recordings. Also, be sure to share out this video. So after you've subscribed, you can like it, you can share it, you can comment. And what that does is that helps us to get to our goal of 500 subscribers. 500. So we are at 55. We are fresh, brand spanking new, and we need your support. And so we thank you to those who have already subscribed, and thank you for subscribing if you are one who is here to support the journey of how we are going about normalizing culturally responsive teaching and leadership. Before I get into our conversation today, I want to make sure we're on the same page because we hear the words culturally relevant, culturally responsive, culturally sustaining. And I want to be sure that you understand the perspective that I'm speaking from. When I'm speaking about culturally responsive teaching, there's a formula that I created that reflects what culturally responsive teaching is. And a lot of the work is based on the work of Dr. Gloria Ladson Billings, Dr. Geneva Gay, and Zaretta Hammond, along with Dr. Christopher Emden, Dr. Goldie Muhammad, Dr. Bettina Love, and the list goes on of other scholars who have revolutionized education with their ideas, with their boldness, with their commitment to eradicating some of these spaces of toxicity that have kept our students, particularly those who have been marginalized, whether it's because of their race, their gender, their sexuality, their class status. They have been marginalized, meaning pushed into the margins. They are not a forethought, but more of an afterthought. And so, what we do in culturally responsive teaching is we combine this formula of cognition plus culture. So, how we teach is based on how the brain processes information and how the impact of culture plays on the brain of the learner. So, we're talking about emotions, we're talking about memories, we're talking about fear, safety, opportunities, all of the things of belonging that play a part in how the brain actually learns. So while we're on these sessions on Sundays, our goal is to really connect with the soul of educators everywhere who are watching this. And the goal is to really, really call upon our instructional leaders. That could be our school coaches, that could be curriculum designers or providers, instructional designers, instructional centered administrators in schools, anyone who is responsible for fostering and developing strong teacher teams and their journeys of professional development. We come into this space to speak to your soul. We come into this space to provide you with some thoughts and some critical reflections and some challenges, even to help you to think about how intentional your impact is as an instructional leader who is also working to normalize culturally responsive teaching. I want there to be at some point in our time while I'm here on this earth where we've normalized culturally responsive teaching so much that it is known as just the way that we teach all young people, the way that we honor the diversity of our experiences, the way we include the differences that make us unique and beautiful as a human race, the way that we bring space and belonging to the genius in its varied forms into educational learning spaces. So today, we are talking about the biggest gap that no one is really talking about in education and how it impacts your leadership soul. And what that gap is the teacher and administrator gap. As I've been doing my work from classroom teacher to instructional leader to now a consultant and coach of other leaders in schools and teachers in schools, the thing I notice the most that is really hindering us and is delaying our progress, our opportunities to revolutionize education is this gap, this power dynamic that is oftentimes outplayed as this us versus them. And I hear this, I've experienced this where there are oftentimes teachers who are not on the same page as their instructional leadership staff. They feel oftentimes as though they are being mandated to do certain things that they don't even understand the why behind it. They don't understand why they should be motivated to do it, how it's relevant to their job, how the instructional strategies or initiatives that the district is bringing, and those instructional leaders are like the middle person to bring those initiatives to the forefront. A lot of times they don't understand why they're relevant and how they're going to actually solve a problem that the teachers are currently facing in their classroom. As I begin to expand my work to instructional leadership, what I'm finding out a lot of times is that we are involved in these initiatives and these strategies or curriculums or programs that wholeheartedly I believe that we all believe those things will actually make a difference. But sometimes there are critical pieces that are missing. And one of the biggest pieces that we're going to talk about and focus on today is how have we created space to connect to our teacher teams so that we can dissolve the gap that keeps us disconnected from helping and working and serving together to actually illuminate the genius of our young people. And so maybe you're thinking, maybe you're wondering, what is this gap that you're talking about, Dr. Mill? And here are some ways I want you to think about how this gap can actually be occurring in your school right now. Because maybe you think everything is well, maybe things are going really well, but maybe there are blind spots that you have missed. And what I want you to do is think about focusing. When we think about the gaps, we tend to focus on the gaps that come up with student academics, right? I'm here in Arkansas, and our literacy rates are at the 30th percentile, meaning only 30% of our students are reading at or above grade level. And that is atrocious. That is not to be celebrated. That is not to be looked at with honor. That is to be looked at as there is an urgent need for something different to happen. But sadly, what I see oftentimes happens is that we continue to repeat the same cycles of behaviors, of implementation of these initiatives, of programming, of scheduling, the way that we are engaging with teachers. We continue to do these things the same way with different curriculums, with different programs, but we engage with them in the same way, expecting a different result. And then we see the insanity that ensues as we see teachers are leaving the classroom in high numbers. But guess what? It is not just teachers who are leaving the classrooms, who are leaving the school buildings. We are losing valuable instructional leaders and principals who are leaving because there is not a cohesive climate that is all geared toward the same collective values and the same collective goals. So we focus so much on the urgency of the need to close these student academic achievement gaps, right? And they are important. But the adults are the facilitators of closing those gaps. And so, if we are working to close those gaps with our young people, we first have to stop to think, where are the gaps with the adults who are fostering or supposed to be fostering spaces, cultivating spaces for the genius of our young people? And so, because we are caught up, I talked about this last Sunday. So, if you missed last Sunday's live, go back onto the page. It's the last live post that we have here on YouTube and also here on LinkedIn. But I talked about how we're focusing so much on this sense of urgency, this sense of perfectionism, and we're driving these things in this either or thinking versus both and, the binary type of thinking, the only one right way or one right answer to a solution, when we're dealing with humans who are so complex. And that's what we continue to forget, even as we're dealing with our teacher teams. One of the things I have focused this firm on really providing as a service to schools and to leaders and to districts is, how are you fostering emotionally aware, emotionally intelligent, and emotionally resilient teacher teams? Because the things that we're facing with our students of today are like they've never been before. Some of the challenges may be the same. So we may be dealing with poverty. We may have children who are experiencing multiple adverse childhood experiences, also known as ACEs. And we may see these things show up, but then we don't actually know how to meet the need in a way that responds to the children sitting in front of us every single day. But a lot of that reason happens is because we expect the teachers who are in front of our children who are experiencing trauma, which also means that our teachers are now experiencing this secondary form of trauma. We don't know how to attend to that. So we add on more stress. And when I say we, I mean we as instructional leaders. I've been guilty of getting caught in the rat race, being on the hamster wheel of education, getting things done, filling out paperwork, going to meeting after meeting after meeting that is not allowing me to focus my time as an instructional leader on how to really create space for instructional excellence to thrive in my school building. And it became very frustrating. And I've talked with people, I'm always talking with people in the field and my clients that I'm working with, especially when I'm working on a school level. And they are consistently informing me of how they're left or they're pulled out of their school buildings once every week or once every couple of weeks to go into these meetings that could have been an email. There could have been a report that's due maybe monthly or quarterly, but they're pulled out and not given the time and space to actually support teachers, to be side by side, partnering elbow to elbow with teachers, to give them the co-teaching, the modeling, the support, the emotional support that they need to uphold this work. So we're wanting our young people to actually pull rabbits out of the hat, right? Because it's not that their genius is not there, but it's certain content that we've got to bridge the gap from their genius to the genius of the content and create a system that merges them together where we can see beautiful creations, beautiful criticality occur, beautiful abstract thoughts, beautiful imagination, beautiful synthesis, all of these higher level order thinkings or higher order thinking things that we want to see happen. But because we're so focused on the numbers, y'all, because we're so focused on student academic and behavioral achievement gaps. So we've got that going on. Then we've got the lack of parental engagement. So we're grabbing at this low-hanging fruit and we're not getting to the root. And because we fail to get to the root of the issues, we continue to go in this cycle. And so I'm here today to talk about the gap that no one is talking about, to hopefully motivate some of us to revolutionize our goals, to revolutionize our plans, to revolutionize our impact in education, to actually think about ways that we are actually building the emotional resilience of our teacher teams by seeing them as humans who teach. Not simply teachers, but humans first. Humans with emotions, experiences, expertise, value that should be honored, included, and even cultivated so it can grow further. So here are some clues that some of these gaps, this us versus them, the administrators versus the teacher gap. Here are some clues. If you think this doesn't exist in your school, here are some clues that it may exist in your school. You got teacher resistance. There are initiatives that you bring out, whether they're from your school singularly or collectively as a district. There are initiatives that you have to bring in, and the teachers are resistant. They may be speaking up boldly against it. They may be murmuring in their cliques or in their groups. They may be doing it half heartedly. They may be doing it wholeheartedly, but not even understand why they're doing it, not seeing the results that the programs or the initiatives promise to bring, because now we have a gap. There's a lack of connectedness from your purpose as an administrator or an instructional leader to supporting them in their purpose to uplifting the genius of their students. You got cliques, you got gossip, toxic behaviors, catty behaviors, petty behaviors that happen from your teachers to your admin or from the admin to the teachers, right? We can't blame it on one side. I've seen it happen in both ways, right? Where there could be administrators who are keeping paper trails just to sideswipe or put someone in a position to lose their job or to be embarrassed or publicly humiliated. And I've seen it happen the other way, where there's this idea of I've never done this initiative, or I've never engaged with young people in this way. I've always done it one way as a teacher. And you now as an instructional leader are letting me know this is a new way, at least for me. And now there's a gap because this is not what I know. And you've not created connection. There's not a space to bridge the gap between what I've known to what I need to know now to meet the needs of the students who are before me. Here's some more clues, right? They're not willing to partner with one another. They're not willing to partner with you. They don't want to partner with other teachers to solve problems. And this could be on your end, right? This is a space where I'm speaking to the soul of instructional leaders particularly, but every educator can benefit from this. But if you're a leader in the space, even if you're a dean or a professor, wherever you are, if you're a leader in the space and you see that there is a lack of willingness, whether on your part or on the part of those who you are responsible for managing and supervising, to come together and solve problems, there's a gap, right? There's no time of connection to just human to human connection. It's always business, business, business. And that does not mean that we have to know each other on a super personal level. But I need to know your personhood. I need to know your humanness. I need to know your character. I need to know your personality, right? Because these things are going to help me to connect human to human. So when there are challenging times, when we are in the trenches planning out an action plan to resolve some issues that we're seeing with our families and with our young people, and even within our teacher teams, our human connection is going to uphold us enough to where safety is bred. But see, if there is no connection, there becomes a space where the amygdala, that safety threat detection center, let me say that again, that safety threat detection center in the limbic region of the brain. Y'all know this is my jam. I love talking about the brain. That small, and it's one of the smallest little pieces in our brain. If there is no connection, there's no opportunity for safety. And so if safety is not perceived, then a threat is perceived. And when a threat is perceived, you have these kind of behaviors of fight, flight, freeze, or appease. But there's a lack of authenticity We don't feel safe enough to show up as we are, right? You may be wondering, why doesn't my teacher team, why don't they feel safe? Why aren't they showing up? Why aren't they being vulnerable? I think I'm doing it right. I think I'm doing these things, but there is something there. There's a gap there, right? And maybe that could have been alleviated had you got to know each other outside of the tough spaces, right? There's little to no evidence of how you celebrate teachers or your staff routinely. Every week, every month, every quarter, via emails, bulletin boards, shout outs during meetings or PDs. You should be celebrating the genius, the creativity, the ingenuity, the innovativeness of your teacher teams, right? Because these are the things that are going to build connection to let them know that they are seen, valued, and heard. But a lot of times that human need is not met. We don't strategically plan for that because that doesn't look good in professional spaces. We don't strategically plan for how we're going to build a space where we can actually connect people to people, human to human, so that we're there for each other in case someone on our team is experiencing a loss in their family or a close relationship, in case someone on that team is experiencing a hardship, in case someone on that team is experiencing a downfall. Now we're able to connect. Not that we have to know all their business and know every detail, but we can show them that I see you. I hear your pain. I hear your discomfort. I hear the trouble that you're having. And I value you enough to see you and to be there for you in ways that you need me to be. And if these things are not evident in your teams, if these things are not evident, these are clues that there's a gap. And this gap is going to keep you from being the leader, especially those instructional leaders. You're going to see pockets. You're going to see a few teachers excel. But here's the thing, that's no good as a school. As a culturally responsive school, it's no good to have pockets of teachers because that means that the systems and the structures in place are not solid enough to support everybody thriving, right? It's not good enough for one or two or a couple people on the team to be doing great and then to place blame and give reason for why these couple of people are not. And that's what I hear a lot. Like these teachers just don't want to do that. And sadly, we hear the same thing from teachers about students. It's the cycle. And it trickles down based on how we conceptualize and how we actualize human to human connections. So as I leave you today, I have a challenge. I have a challenge for you today. I want you, and this is what I ask everybody to do that joins me on these Sundays with Souls. I'm always going to challenge your soul. Survey the landscape of your school's soul. Survey the landscape of your school's soul. Here are some questions, and you can come back to this video, rewind it, jot these questions down, put them in an anonymous survey so that you can get real, authentic, raw feedback. But you need to do your work so you're ready to receive the feedback. Because the feedback is no good if you continue to get offended or if you take it too personal to where you can't even spark a change. You've got to see the feedback as an opportunity, not a threat. Remember, I talked about that. And so whatever work that looks like for you, it may look like therapy. It may look like talking to another leader. It may look like having a thought partner to who you know is going to tell you the truth because they want to see you grow in your capacity as a professional, as a leader, as a change maker, as a revolutionary in education. But do whatever work you need to do in order to take this feedback. So here are some of the questions. How comfortable do teachers feel coming to you for assistance, whether it's with classroom management or instruction? And I don't want you to try to subjectify or subject these, or well, it's just this teacher or it's just that teacher. That's why the anonymous survey is good, because you need to see the raw data. How comfortable do they feel coming to you for you to assist them with classroom management or instruction? And that answer could be maybe your attitude or your personality is a threat to them. And sometimes that's no fault of your own. I'm very direct, right? But sometimes there are ways to work around that to where you open the space and you get in there and let them experience how supportive you really are. Number two, How often does your coaching or feedback match a change in their instructional planning or delivery? So if you give them feedback, how often do you see a change in the way they're planning their instruction? Meaning they're willing to take your feedback and move and make some changes, or even in how they deliver that. Okay. Another question. In what areas would your teams, your teacher teams, indicate is your strength? What would they say you're strong at? And maybe you can Google search, like, what are some strong leadership traits? And you put them there and ask them to check all that apply. What would you say are my strengths? And then the same, what would you say are my weaknesses? This is the data. This is the sole data that you need to be an impactful leader, not just a person with a title, not just a person who's making more money and able to live, a more comfortable lifestyle, not just a person who is adding things to their resume. You're not leading just for those things. You're leading to make an impact. You're leading to transform the lives of our young people by supporting the adults who serve them and are with them the majority of the day. So think about that. How strong are you in giving feedback? How strong are you in helping them come up with solutions that actually work? And all your solutions may not work. Doesn't mean you're not good at solution gathering, but we got to think about that percentage. How often are the solutions that you do offer working to see the change towards the goals that those teachers are trying to see manifest? How good are you at cultivating teacher autonomy, right? You don't just pass down mandates and initiatives, but you actually want to see them grow. So you give them the autonomy to choose where they need to grow, where is most pressing for them, what can their goals be instructionally. How good are you at building their instructional capacity? How are you helping them not to over scaffold, but not to under scaffold? How good are you at helping them to work through productive struggle, to ignite student learning, to not cause cognitive overload, to bring joy and fun and curiosity into learning? How good are you at helping them do that? How good is your communication? Your emotional intelligence work? Do they feel seen, valued, and heard under your leadership? Whether you're a coach, an administrator, whatever your role is there a time where you are creating space for teachers to share their expertise? Right? This builds their confidence and their competence as strong teachers. Because a lot of times what I'm finding out is that the blame is shifted to these kids. These kids can't do this, or these parents don't want to do that. But a lot of time when I peel back the layers and I've gotten into relationship and connection with teachers, I've seen that it's actually a lack of self-efficacy. I, as the teacher, don't believe in my own ability to tackle that hard problem, to teach that rough student, to work with that hard, challenging group of kids, to reach that difficult parent that we call. And so it's about, as an instructional leader, getting to the root of this gap. First of all, you've got to be willing to recognize where the gap is. What's the root of the gap? Acknowledging that there is a gap. And if you believe there's not one, ask your team. You can't make this decision to say there is or is not based on yourself alone. You got to collect data. You got to talk to your people. You got to give surveys that allow them the freedom and space to articulate their perspective. And trust me, they'll give you the truth if the opportunity is provided in a safe space, meaning those anonymous surveys. So I want you to take these challenges and go back to this gap that no one is really wanting to talk about. And I want you to be brave enough as an instructional leader to tap into your own soul care, your own soul work, realize the importance of this work to our students. This trickles all the way to our young people. Because if we can bridge the gap from teacher to administrator, from teacher to parent, if we can get the adults on one page, one band, one sound, like they say in drumline, if we can get one band, one sound with the adults, we can see our students thrive, because they are the most malleable. They are the ones that, even if they're coming from traumatic situations, they just want to be loved. They just want to be in places where they feel like they belong, that their genius is appreciated, that their curiosity is not demeaned and degraded, that they're not silenced when they have questions and they want to explore things and they want to laugh and have a good time, because now we're normalizing culturally responsive teaching. And as the instructional leader, you're doing that on the same team, undoing the traditions, dismantling the hierarchies, the supremacies, the ideologies that have kept our young people down from where they actually deserve to be. So I hope that these challenges, I hope that this conversation has blessed you in some way. Again, be sure to like, share, subscribe, repost, anything you can do to support us. We are trying to get to 500 subscribers because we want to normalize this conversation so that we don't even have to keep saying culturally responsive teaching, because it's the way that all of our babies are engaged in educational and learning spaces where they all have the opportunity to thrive, where all of their genius and curiosity, humor, quirkiness, oddities, all of their ways of thinking and being are appreciated and valued and built upon to deepen their knowledge, to deepen their comprehension skills, their analytical skills, their criticality of the world, so that they can bring that to solving a lot of problems that we have in this space. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Dr. Melanie Battles with Scholars for the Soul. You can find us on scholarsforthesoul.com. That is our website. And you can also reach us via email at info@scholarsforthesoul.com. We would love to partner with you as an instructional leader, with your school, or with your district to help you build strong teacher teams that are looking to normalize culturally responsive teaching for the flourishing and the advancement of the genius of all of our babies. You all have a blessed Sunday, and I will see you next week here, 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time.